everyone, I am Douglas E. Welch, and this is In the Garden, presented by A Gardener's Notebook. Now what you see before me is the beginning of a whole new project. It seems 16 years ago, when we inherited this property, it was overplanted. We've spent the last 16 years removing plants, cutting back trees, removing trees, and so we really haven't thought a lot about putting new plants back into the garden. Well, over the years, we've developed these kind of bare spots, this bed being one of them. This bed is a that's south over there, so you imagine in even the sunniest times of the year, this bed does not get a lot of sun. The fence blocks it, the overhanging trees block it, and so the plants that are here struggle quite a bit. We've got a hibiscus here, we've got a gardenia. The ones at the far end of the bed do better, but because this gets so much shade, they just don't do very well, and we're probably going to move them. Instead, what I've done is I have set myself a $100 a month budget. Now, to some of you that may sound like a lot, to others that may not sound like much at all, but I'm going to try and get $100 worth of plants each month at least to bring into the garden to help to green up what has turned into a very brown woodland garden. It's very pretty in its own right, but it needs a little more green, and the way to do that is with shade plants. So for our first foray out, we've got 3 different types of plants. The first one is this Aucuba japonica, also known as the gold dust plant. Nice variegated leaves. I love variegation because it does give a little more pop to a shade garden, has a little more interest in just a wall of green. Now these are supposed to get up to 4 feet wide and up to 6 foot tall, and so I'm thinking they're going to be the base of our planting here against this fence. It should fill in against this fence very nicely. The fence looks a little ratty. We haven't been able to replace it for a number of reasons, neighbor relations and so on and so forth, but it should shield it very nicely, cover it up, and provide a spot of interest here where there hasn't been one in quite a while. Next up is this big variegated Schefflera plant. This is a Schefflera Trinete variegata. Again, variegated, love the variegation in the leaves. This is actually going to go over more in the center of the garden. There's a circular bed that has, I guess it's a small yew bush on a little hillock that's very big, but nothing else in that bed is doing very well anymore. There were some grasses in there, and of course grass doesn't do well with very low sunlight levels. So this is going to become the basis of some foreground planting actually in the front of this bed, to kind of reaching out into the pathway, again to liven things up a bit, to green things up a bit. And finally is this false Aralia elegantissima. I actually had one of these in the garden before, but about 10 years ago we had 3 to 4 nights of frost, and we ended up losing a lot of the tender plants in the garden. Our tropicals, like the hibiscus, were frozen back, some were killed. This one went from beautiful leaves like you see it now to nothing but bare stems overnight. I've never seen a plant die so quickly in my life. It was doing very well where it was. It was about this tall and about this wide. It looked very, very nice, very striking, nice little highlight plant in the garden. So I'm actually going to put this right back where that one was originally. I'll just have to make sure that I protect it a little bit more in case of low temperatures like we had earlier this winter. You may have seen me with the boxes on my containers and stuff, just covering the more tender plants. So we'll just have to take a little more care with this one as well. One of the nice things I've noticed here is this bed has actually got some pretty decent soil in it yet. There are lots of tree roots, of course. We have lots of trees here, so that's something you always have to deal with, but the soil itself is very good. I was thinking I was going to have to add some garden soil to this to improve the soil, but I think we're ready to go here. We do want to find the right height. This pot, the plant's actually sitting kind of low in this pot here, so I'm going to have to try it a couple times. We got some nice roots there. Everything looks pretty healthy. Now at that point, he's still a little bit low in the hole, so we're going to backfill a little bit. I guess I dug a little deeper than I needed to go there. Oh, there we go. That's looking better. And then we'll just use our hands to backfill in around the plant. We'll tamp him in, and then we will actually want to take this tag off of here too when we get a moment, so you remember what he is in case we want to get something like him in the future. But there we go. We're just gonna backfill it around. We'll heel that in, maybe add a little more soil around it, and already it makes a statement in this area that was otherwise very, very brown before. I think it's going to do very well here, and hopefully it will spread out quite quickly, so when we have our summer party, things will look a lot nicer for our guests. And here is the hole for our Schefflera, since I couldn't plant it in the area that's wet right now. Found another good area for it, again back here in kind of the woodland area part of the garden. And we'll just roll them around, break him free of the pot. Got some roots coming through the bottom, so that bodes well. They say to try not to lift up on the stems when you're taking plants out of the pot, and I tend to agree with that as much as I can. Sometimes you do have to manhandle them a little bit to get them in their hole. There we go. I think that's a good height. Backfill that in. We'll heel that in when we're done, and then we will water that in. And basically, we will be done with our garden budget for the month of March. And we will start thinking about what we might want to add next month. Well, here I am, a little sweating here, a little muddier than I was. This is the aralia. We're going to put it in right here. This is actually a different spot than I had originally planned, I mentioned in the last clip. We discovered, I was trying to put the Schefflera in that bed as well, and all of a sudden we've got a lot of water, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's simply collected water in that area from the rain we've had, or if perhaps there's an unknown water line that ran through that area that got punctured or something. There was a soaker hose there, but we hadn't been running it in a while, so there shouldn't be that much water there. But one of those little garden mysteries you run into. But this is the aralia. We're going to put it in here. It's going to be viewable from the back of the house, my desk in my office. It'll help to cover this wall a little bit, along with the, perhaps see the ficus repens, the creeping fig over my shoulder, which is slowly filling the wall back in. This wall was replaced about 10 years ago, and so the ficus has been slow to retake it. It used to be covered completely. But as with all the plants, we're just gonna gently knock this out of its pot here. And oh, perfect. Now look at that. Okay. And the root ball looks pretty good. We'll just kind of break it up a little bit here. Let's check our depth. Maybe just a tad deep. I always tend to seem to dig too deep. When I was younger, I always seemed to dig too shallow because I was lazy, I guess. Nowadays, when I get digging, and end up planting stuff. You really want to plant almost every transplant. You want to plant it at the level that it was already growing at in the pot, and I think that's just about right. Refill that back in now. This aralia should get to be a decent size, probably that wide, 6 to 8 feet tall. I will address the issue that always comes up when people see this growing in my Southern California garden, of course, is that yes, it does bear a slight resemblance to another cannabis plant. It is not of the same family at all. The serrated leaves, and I believe it has 6 or 7 petals per stem instead of 5. So nothing to worry about there. But I do get that comment a lot when people walk into the garden, especially when this is growing really well. They kind of give it an odd look. But I do like it a lot because it's very hardy, except for frost. It's kind of grows without a lot of care or watering, which is something I look for in any plant. My joke is I garden out of benign neglect. If something can't survive on its own in my garden, it probably doesn't belong there. So that's it for this episode of In the Garden from A Gardener's Notebook. I'm Douglas C. Welch. For more information, you can always visit the website douglasewelch.com. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please click that like button. It really helps people discover all my other videos, and it is greatly appreciated. Until next time, keep planting and keep digging.